Bryget Chrisfield, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thank you, Greg.
Tell me about the music you listened to growing up. Were your parents music fans? Did they have a record collection?
My dad definitely was a music fan, and I remember he used to always play music really loud in a car on family holidays. He'd drive around the Great Ocean Road. Often Elton John would be playing. And I remember one time he was playing Funeral for a Friend, that song, and when I think he used to pump up the volume so he wouldn't have to talk to us as well, so the kids would just be in the back seat. And when he dropped me back to the caravan, I was crying apparently, and Mum accused him of having done something awful, and he was like, "Oh, don't blame me, blame Elton." Apparently the music just moved me to tears, or maybe scared me, because that's a bit creepy, that song. But when I was about 6, I asked for the ABBA Arrival album for Christmas, and there's some photos that I found during COVID, you know, going down memory lane and everything, and I'm just like sitting there singing, reading the lyrics with the album on, so that's pretty cute. That's one of my first like documented memories of being obsessed with music. And then Duran Duran was my first ever concert, and I found a diary entry which was like my first ever little review, where I was pretty much saying my life had begun because I'd discovered live music. And I remember hearing they played The Reflex, and I don't think it was released at that time, but I remember like being blown away by the actual song. And I even remember that Simon started it with a star jump and like landed before he sang. So yeah, I was obsessed with Duran Duran.
Yeah. I've seen photos of you, a very young Bryget, with Michael Hutchence.
Yes.
Tell me about those days.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about the other day because, I don't know, being a music fan back then, the access that you could have to artists was unbelievable, as long as you were quite smart about working out where they were going to be. We were lucky enough to go to Rocking the Royals at the State Theatre, Hamer Hall it's now, but we just thought instead of going to the actual concert, why not hang out at the backstage door, because all of the acts would have been arriving and we just wanted to get autographs and photos. Then there was a limo there, and we were like, oh, I wonder who the limo driver's driving, asked, thinking that they'd never tell us. And he said, oh, In Excess. And then we were like, well, where are they staying? And he told us. So yeah, we ended up just bolting to the hotel and kind of waiting there, and the members kind of came back one by one. We'd actually lied to our parents and said that we were staying at each other's houses, so we didn't have to go home that night. And the staff were really nice about letting us just hang in the lobby. When Michael came back, he had a girl with him, so we were respectful and thought, oh, we don't want to be annoying. Then he saw her to a cab eventually, so we thought we have to get like autographs and photos with him. And he was bored and just went, do you want to just come up and hang out? So we're like 15, kind of like super innocent and a little bit worried about it. But yeah, we spent all night just sitting there talking to him in his hotel room, and he was, yeah, just completely respectful. People would probably think that that story would take a weird turn, but yeah, absolutely so lovely. And because it was such a long amount of time, he always remembered us from that. So at the end of, when we left that morning, like my mum and dad don't even know about this, he was like, next time we play in Melbourne, be at the backstage door of the venue at about 3 o'clock. That's about the time that we'll sound check, and I'll get you guys in. So yeah, we wagged school and did what he said, and straight away he was just like, oh my God, got the tour manager and just went, that one, that one, that one, that one. And yeah, we ended up on the door for all of the shows that they did at Festival Hall. But we did get busted for wagging school because I think the Truth newspaper was around there somewhere, and they took a photo of people waiting at the backstage door. Yeah, and some mums of other kids at our school saw that photo, So, yeah, we ended up getting in trouble for wagging school. And then I wasn't allowed to go. Mum grounded me and I wasn't allowed to go to the rest of the gigs at Festival Hall. But to this day, I wish I'd climbed out the window. What was I thinking? What was I thinking being obedient?
Did you catch up with NXS later on when you were working?
Unfortunately, I mean, I've interviewed a couple of the members over the phone, but that first night that we met Michael, he suggested that I should be a journalist because I asked interesting questions, he said. So, yeah, it feels really special that I went on to do that, even though I never got to interview him. Yeah.
So what was your first paid music job?
I interviewed My Disco for Inpress. Yeah, I kind of started off doing live reviews at Inpress, then album reviews, but they didn't pay either. But then, yeah, as I built up my experience, they asked if I wanted to do some artist interviews, which I was kind of terrified about, but yeah, I got used to it in the end.
Yeah. So you went on to become a full-time staff member?
I did. I did professional writing and editing at RMIT, just part-time. And a friend there was already writing live reviews for Inpress and suggested that I get in touch with the editor, which I did. And then I was just loving it, writing reviews and seeing my byline back in the day when Inpress was really fat, remember? And had the separate theatre part and zebra for the dance bit. So there's just so many words to be done on a weekly basis. And then, yeah, when I was wrapping up the course, Mikey Cahill was leaving Inpress. So Adam Curley was the editor at the time, and he just got in touch and went, "What are you doing beginning of next year?" And so I pretty much walked into the staff writer position there, fresh out of that course. But I didn't do that course until I was 38, so I was late into this career.
As a female writer, do you feel that you've had equal opportunities that your male counterparts have had?
I do think I've been given equal opportunities. I feel like the actual environment has been tricky to navigate sometimes just because it's really a bit of a boys' club. And yeah, I feel like if you don't, or when I was starting kind of thing, if you didn't just sort of sit there and smile and go along with the sometimes sexist banter, you might not be invited to the next thing. So yeah, I think the culture has improved since then, but yeah, I don't think I've missed out on any jobs because I'm female.
Do you think that you've had editorial freedom in most of the work you've done?
I think I've been spoilt by having editorial freedom. Sometimes I think I have a really unique voice in the way that I write, so that might limit doing sort of more mainstream stuff because I'm used to being able to write pretty much anything, swear words included. Sometimes, because Stack Magazine's JB Hi-Fi, and now they run it through the JB Hi-Fi website, so they're very careful now because of that, with like drug references or swearing has to be the F ... Yeah, like as if kids don't know how to figure out what that is. But yeah, that would be the extent of it. Probably sometimes quotes might have been taken out of context or put in a headline that makes it sound like a... Yeah, I hate that when it becomes clickbait and you know yourself that it wasn't the intention of the artist to say it how it ends up looking. So that's happened a couple of times. One memorable time was Taylor Hawkins from Foo Fighters, and he loves U2, right? And he was just talking about that album that dropped on iTunes. Remember that one? And he was like, I mean, it doesn't even matter what the album sounds like. It would have sounded like a fart because of the way that it was released. So he certainly didn't say that the album was no good, but the headline was like, Taylor Hawkins says U2's new album sounds like a fart. Yeah, so I hate that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't feel like I've been censored necessarily.
Yeah. What about your most memorable interviews, ones you've really enjoyed?
I really prefer face-to-face ones, even though they're more terrifying. Probably my favourite one would be Nikki Sixx, Motley Crue, backstage before Motley Crue supported Kiss on that tandem tour. And bless the publicist, she just knew that I was obsessed with Nikki Sixx. I was supposed to have been interviewing him another time, but it fell through, and she was like, I'm going to make it up to you, don't you worry. So I ended up talking to him about his book coming out on paperback. So how excellent that she arranged time for me to chat. But it was like in the compound, sort of backstage, and it was meant to be 20 minutes and it ended up being 40 minutes or something. And yeah, he ended up giving me an exclusive saying that they were going to do one last tour, the final tour, and then break up. And that's turned out not to be the case, which is super annoying. But when it was announced, that breaking news was re-reported in like pretty much all around the world. So it was, yeah, it felt excellent.
Yeah.
Who else? Face-to-face ones. Oh, I interviewed Johnny Rotten over the phone. Was so terrified. Read his whole autobiography. The excellent one. It's got a funny title. No Irish, no dogs. Something like that. And it was fine. I was so scared because he doesn't suffer fools at all. And I remember another writer really wanted to do it as well. So it was like cage match trying to work out who did it. I don't know how I won that one. But yeah, that was an excellent experience too.
Your job has, I don't know whether your job has paid for it, but your job has taken you overseas as well. What are some of your favourite memories of travelling overseas for music?
Yeah, that was something I used to love doing when I was at the music, like tying in a holiday with an excellent opportunity. One of which was, I went to LA to cover the press conference announcing Motley Crue's last ever tour, which was an experience. They had the press conference underneath a big hotel. It was called Beach's Funhouse or something. And it was streamed live on the website. And I asked a question. I remember being really terrified. You had to just put your hand up and they gave you the microphone. And because everyone else was American, when I spoke, I felt like I sounded like an alien. And it was so weird. And you know when you talk and you're not even sure of the words that are coming out? And yeah, but I listened back to it and it kind of made sense. And Nikki kind of knew what I was trying to get at and kind of jumped in. And you can't really ask anything too interesting anyway because it needs to be something that will benefit everyone. So I just asked something like, are they committed to bringing the full production to Australia? Because sometimes, we'd get half of the stuff. And another one, Courtney Barnett supported Blur at Madison Square Garden. And I think I went to Primavera to see Blur when they'd kind of just started doing shows again. Left there thinking, I cannot have that be the only time that I see Blur. And I was actually talking to Marty from The Age, and he said, well, it's not like you to not make it happen or travel somewhere why don't you try and interview Courtney about supporting Blur at Madison Square Garden? I was like, excellent idea. So got in touch with Courtney's manager and yeah, that felt really fun walking in the bowels of Madison Square Garden to interview Courtney. Great exposure for her as well at that time.
What about the worst interviews, the ones you haven't enjoyed?
Oh my God, there's only one that stands out and it is so foul that whenever I think about it, it makes me cringe. And yeah, I don't even know how to reconcile it in my head. I don't know how I could have made it better. It just was out of my control. It just was going from bad to worse. But it was Spandau Ballet. I was meant to chat with Tony Hadley, and I guess it taught me a lesson about having a few general questions just in case the person that you're speaking to gets changed at the last minute. Because I got an email 10 minutes before saying, oh, it's actually not going to be with Tony, it's going to be Gary Kemp. And I was like, what the hell? Quickly tried to watch a couple of video interviews just to kind of get his vibe. And I watched one that Jonathan Ross did, which was quite a fun chat. And it was interesting. I still think it's interesting information. Apparently he was born with one kidney and his brother, not twin, was born with 3. So I just thought it'd be a great idea to start off with that. He thought I was, like, it was a radio interview, and he was like, what the hell is this? Is this a tabloid or something? It just was foul, and I felt sick because I certainly didn't mean to upset him. I just thought it was really interesting and wanted to know more about it. But I think I said something like, because of that health concern, did you have to watch your partying in your heyday kind of thing? And he was like, what are you talking about? I think he thought that I was searching for some kind of gross clickbait, which wasn't my intention at all. I was just trying to do the best I could with a very short amount of researching time. So I just chose to write that one up pretty much as it happened without digging into how unpleasant it was. But yeah, I ended up getting, I didn't get review tickets for that show. I think they were so cross that suddenly, that request didn't come through. It was quite weird.
So what do you think of the state of music media currently?
There's aspects that I hate about it. I really love long form interviews, and they seem to be few and far between. I used to love being able to do like passion projects and cover a band at the very start of their career. But yeah, everything changed and there wasn't really much call for that. I hate Zoom. Hate it. Hate that you have to kind of look decent to conduct the interview, and also hate that you feel weird about shuffling through your notes because they're like staring right at you. And also, you know how Zoom struggles to pick up who's talking, so you miss some words here and there, or you're talking at the same time. And I also think, I don't know, there's something about phone interviews that feels more intimate, and I feel like you can get better responses if something's visual. People seem to be more aware of every word that comes out of their mouth and how it might be construed. I don't know if that's just in my head, but it feels like they lose themselves a little bit more, and it feels like a more intimate chat if it's on the phone. And yeah, social media does my head in, and it takes way too much time to do everything. Yeah, so.
What about your thoughts on AI?
I kind of try not to think about it, but I also think that my favourite writers, like, they pour their heart and soul into it, and you can really feel their specific identity through their writing. So I can't imagine that would be able to be replaced. I remember, you know, Nick Cave's Red Hand Files, someone had written, like, sent in some lyrics that they'd, like AI lyrics of what a Nick Cave song might be, and it was, pretty horrendous, which was a relief because I hate the idea of it. Yeah, I like the humanness of journalism and, the specific skill and talent of an individual.
What about pictures that you get from artists or publicists, labels seeking interviews or content? What are the things that they do that you don't like, the things that won't make you want to interview them?
I mean, I get how competitive it is and how I understand the desperation of trying to get coverage for your artist, because it just seems like the opportunities shrink more and more. It's tricky because I don't think it's feasible to think that you can get a reply from everyone. Like, I get frustrated by the amount of just circling back on this one, just seeing if you've had a chance to listen to this, because at the end of the day, you don't have a chance to listen to everything. And I suppose a no response is a no, I reckon, rather than having to be really blunt. or if the publicist doesn't know what you do or what you can cover, that's really annoying. Things like, I mean, it's if someone sends you an artist's new single, if you listen to it and it's really good, then I could like keep it in mind to cover the album, but there's really not much I can do to cover a single. But I guess people still remember me as being an editor, so they probably don't realise that I don't have much sway in that kind of thing anymore. So it's probably not their fault now that I think about it.
What about advice to young artists leading up to an interview? What kind of preparation can they do to help the interview?
I think if they just try to actually really listen to the questions and answer the questions, sometimes I think emerging artists have set things that they'd like to communicate or say, and so they can, you feel like they're not answering the question, they're just getting the quotes out there that they want to be included in the piece. I think just trying to focus on what you're actually being asked instead of trying to sound a certain way and trying to be authentic, because I think that really comes across.
Bucket list interviews, interviews that you hope to get one day or dream about getting?
I remember how sad I was when Bowie died, having not got to chat to him. Almost got to interview Grace Jones but I was equally terrified, so I'm not sure how I would have had to have had a Valium before that one, seriously, especially if I was looking at her. Just like, I guess, Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, those kind of legendary figures I would love to interview, but often they don't do many. Beyonce also.
Well, Bryget, it's been great to chat, and thanks for your time.
No problem.